Hi everybody, welcome to The Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, chairman and co-owner of English League One side Peterborough United. And we took a break last week. It's been a pretty crazy couple of weeks, so we've got lots to talk about today. You're back in Dubai, Darragh. How's it going?
Yeah, it was good. I apologise for missing an episode last week. There was a few unhappy podcast followers on Twitter. We left on Sunday night from the States. It took 24 hours, no, Saturday. It took 24 hours of travelling. You know, in the COVID world, it's all very different when you're traveling now. It's PCR tests, bring the results to the airport with you. You're going through New York because there's no direct flights anymore because certain airlines are closed down. You're hanging around New York airport for like 7-8 hours. There's no cafes open. There's no lounges open. Then you get a flight that's absolutely full to Dubai. It's like 14 hours. And to be fair, Dubai is quick and easy. You can pay for the service to go straight to the gate from the airplane. And as long as you have your COVID test, you get through. Yeah, we got in like late Sunday night, and then obviously Monday I was fucked, as were all the kids. But yeah, it's been great. It's great to be away because the kids have been away for like 15 months. So yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't think I'd be as busy. Lots of stuff have come up with a posh. Do you know what I mean? I've probably spoke to my partners this week more than I've spoke to in a month, which is, ironic. You know what I mean? I'm on holiday and it's just like, after this, I've got another Zoom call with them. There's stuff with season tickets. There's issues with, players, obviously the bailout. There's the tier 1, tier 2, figuring out how many fans can get in. So yeah, a lot's been going on. But Dubai's pretty normal. Apart wearing a mask, everything's pretty much open, and that's nice to see. And I want to give a quick shout out to a 73-year-old man who's had 2 heart attacks, who got COVID a few weeks ago, a very bad bout of COVID. Didn't go to hospital and has fought back, and he's back at full health. And that is Sir Barry Fry. I knew COVID wouldn't get him, and he's had it, and he's defeated it and beaten it, and he's back watching games. But he was in a bad way for a couple of weeks.
That's fantastic to hear that he's turned the corner. He's got rid of it.
Yeah, he's all fine. He's been back watching games. He's larger than life. I mean, I spoke to him pretty much every few days. He was like a dead dog, by his bed. He just said he didn't have a wank in him. He had no energy. He was typical bastard. Oh, it's like a bad bout of the flu. He was saying, and he didn't have any breathing issues. My concern was because he'd had previous underlying conditions, a couple of heart attacks, hip surgeries, his health, and he's obviously not the slimmest. You worry because of the stuff you hear, and again, there's a message for some people out there who think it's an immediate death sentence. Not always is. He was fine. He stayed at home. He recovered. Doctor gave him the all clear, and he's back fighting fit and ready for the January window.
That's fantastic to hear. So we've got a lot to cover. You talked about some of it there, but before we go there, I actually have a question. You talked about the things you're doing when you're on holiday. How involved in the day-to-day do you usually get with the posh?
I mean, I'm always available, so it's not like I can make 4 or 5 calls a day and speak to various people at the club, from the CEO, director of football, the manager, players, physio, sports scientists. I'm on emails all the time with people from the club. I've been dealing with my scouts while I've been over here talking about January and next summer. It's an ongoing thing. I'm not one of those people who shuts down when I go on holiday. I'm not one of those people that's uncontactable. I like to have the finger on the pulse. It has been busier than normal. I won't lie to you, but I'm getting through it. There's a lot of stuff going on at the club. It's not the best time financially because of what's going on in the world. So there's all that concern. There's navigating things. Obviously, we got our arse kicked in the FA Cup. So yesterday was Sunday. One of my jobs is, while everyone else loses their shit and panics and, starts slagging each other off and getting unhappy and going on social media, which I might have done in the past, my job is to look at it and go, in isolation, right, I've got to get the manager, the players, my job, who motivates the motivator. So I've got to try and get the gaffer back up and running. So I took my girls out yesterday to a jewelry shop, one of those jewelry places here where you can get some nice stuff and not expensive stuff, but like little rings and stuff. And God bless my wife, I had to go outside for like half an hour because the manager was up. He had all the players in the training ground, so I'll chat with him. Well, I'm like a sounding board, so I'll let him rant and rave for 20 minutes. Then, it's easy for me to rant and rave, but I didn't. I just said to him look, Gaff, I couldn't give a fuck anymore about that. You can get as angry as you want with the players and the performance and whatever. Bottom line is, my job is to make sure you're back at it so that by Saturday next week, we've won 2 league games and we're top of the league. And if we finish the week top of the league, what's a fucking great week it's been. And who gives a fuck about the FA Cup? Simple as that.
So let's talk about that. So, not a great result, to put it mildly. When things like that happen, you've got 2 ways you can go. You can start throwing teacups around
Mm.
or whatever, or you can just say, look, that was a bit of a horror show. Nothing's to be gained by analysing it to the minute level. Let's just get it out of our system and move on.
There's a million low moments in football and there's a million high moments. And as I said to the manager, we played Plymouth 5 days before, and it was the best we played in months. And we played them off the park, and we should have won probably 5 or 6-0. And then you go and you against some part-time players who rose to the level. And congratulations to Chorley. Great story, great TV. That's why the TV company was there. But there's no way on earth they should be living with us on a football field, because the laws of finances and football, the way it works is it shouldn't happen. But I've said to the gaffer, bigger clubs than us have had nosebleeds in cups, all right, and been beaten. Your own Bradford went to Chelsea, a strong Jose Mourinho Chelsea, and beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I think Chelsea probably won the league that year.
They did.
Right.
Yeah. And they were unbeaten at home.
Right. So there's anomalies sometimes in the cup. And I can criticize our players and talk about, well, they didn't show up or they're big time Charlies. And only the players know why they didn't try a leg on Saturday. Only the players know why they didn't rise to the occasion. I can't go on top of them and pile on. All I can say to the players is, you did that. Now go fix that.
Yeah.
You can fix that on Wednesday and you can fix it on Saturday. Or you know what? You can go hide in and you can carry that on. That's on you. We've got very good footballers. My social media account was vile on Saturday night. If I showed you 5 or 6 of the tweets I got on Saturday night, if I could have, I'd get in an airplane and go hunt those people down. But now I kind of like, okay, I'm going to leave it. These are sad fucking pricks. Vile. I mean, vile. You would think our club was in non-league. So I just leave that alone. And we've got a really good football squad. We've got a really good football club. And sometimes you can forget that with a shit result or a couple of shit results. I'm trying to focus on, we've got a big game against Wimbledon. We've got a big game against Portsmouth. We want to be 2 points a game in the league. If we keep doing that, we're getting promoted.
Yeah.
If we go out and play like we did on Saturday, we've got no fucking chance. But I know our players are better than that, and I expect better from them, and I'll get better from them, and I'll get better from my manager. So that's where I am on that.
Yeah. It's easy to say as an outsider.
Of course.
Obviously a shock result, but you're second in League One. You've got, look at the players that you've got compared to some of the teams around you. You've got such a fantastic opportunity. I think that oftentimes you don't know how good you've got it.
I mean, we had a kick in the bollocks with COVID. We got robbed last season. We've come back. We've lost 2 of the first 3 games. We've then turned that around by December to be second in the league, 3 points or 2 points from the top. 2 points a game, one of the best home records in 2020 in the English Football League, and in the top 5 goal scorers in the Football League. Give me a fucking break. I understand everyone wants to pile on, but give me a fucking break. So I know what we've got in our dressing room, and I know what we've got at our club, and I expect a response from our players.
So we've had, I'm going to come to, in fact, I'll go there now. You've got 8 games in December.
Oof.
5 of them in the next 15 days.
Oof.
How do you protect your squad against, kind of, whether it's nursing the squad through a set of games like that, or, burnout's obviously a real thing, and that's going to be a tough challenge over the next few weeks.
Yes, it's tough. We've seen a lot of managers. Jurgen Klopp hasn't stopped fucking moaning about it. And I think you got to be careful, because when you moan as a manager like that, you sometimes let your players suddenly, they can make excuses.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes a manager can go too far. And I agree, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I agree with the broadcasters that your CEO signed the deals. They allow your football club pay you 100 grand a week to manage in the Premier League, and go out and spend 50 million pounds on a defender in January, which Liverpool are going to have to do. So stop fucking moaning and get on with it. Everyone's in the same boat. I get there are complaints. Do it once, move on. Start doing it 3-4 times, getting in rows. It's not a good look. I don't like it. I wouldn't like it from my manager. I look at where we are and I go, okay, the good news is we've got extra subs. Okay. Maybe that helps clubs like us, the smaller clubs, not so much if they haven't got big squads. Mm-hmm. We all knew when we wanted to come back and play what was going to happen when it started in September. It was going to be a shorter season. There was going to be a lot of 3 games a week situation. Our players have to get on with it. We feel we're fit enough to be stronger in the second half of the season. Some of our players have been injured already. We've missed them, and they're coming back. We've lost Joe Ward. We thought we'd lost Johnson Clark-Harris the other night. We're just going to have to cope. It's going to have to be next man up. We can't use injuries as an excuse. Last year, we had a horrendous 6 weeks in December and January because we lost like 11 players. But that wasn't the headline from us. That wasn't the headline going, oh, look, we missed out on promotion because of all these. Every squad's got to deal with it differently. We've got a youth team. We've got some young players. Okay, we're going to have to throw them in. So fucking what? I personally wanted the manager to play all the kids in the FA Cup. A couple of weeks ago, when we were on that great run, and we went and beat Bristol Rovers. We then had an FA Cup game and a break, and the manager gave the players like 4 and 5 days off. And I think he looks at it and goes, it was the worst thing he ever did, because they were in such a fine run of form, and they came back out of that break. It was like the start of the season when we lost 2 or 3, and we lost the following 2 league games. And I think that made him change his mind in the FA Cup about keeping the players playing. I think
Yeah.
we've got the type of players where you need to play them. Now, he will have to rotate at times. He's going to have to be clever. We got the EFL Cup in a week, the last 32 against West Ham. As much as we want to go to Wembley and win, we're going to have to play a few of our kids. Wimbledon have just played 5 games in 12 days, and we're playing them on Wednesday. Plymouth went to Fleetwood and then travelled to us. You know, we all have issues. Bradford will have issues. So it's easy for us to moan and scream and whatever else. But for fuck's sake, do you know what? While people are locked up and not allowed to go out and do things, and we as footballers or football managers are on TV fucking moaning about playing football.
You talk about the, what is it, Papa John's trophy, I think it is now. So Flynn Clark got player of the round, which was fantastic.
Tremendous. Great young kid, 17. Ricky J. Jones, a strike partner from the youth team. Them two are going to be my dream in 2 years' time to see them leading our line. We wouldn't have to keep going out and buying strikers. He's got an edge, that kid. He's got an edge, you know what I mean? And it's not always a good thing, but it's a good thing with him. He's got an edge. And I like players with an edge. The manager likes players with an edge. He will develop into, as will Ricky, probably if he keeps a level head and keeps working hard, they could play as high up as they want. And 3 goals in 3 games for a 17-year-old. I think Ricky did 3 and 4 last year as well when he was 16 and 17. It's great for the academy. It's great for the future of the club. We really do have a batch of 4 or 5 kids as good as I've seen in 15 years. And my partners wanted a really good academy. We're going for Cat 2. That's really exciting for me, because sometimes even for me, it's exhausting having to keep going out and recruiting. Every time you sell a player, next man up, you recruit. It would be just great to get to a stage where, you know what, we lose a striker, up comes a youth team striker, and so on and so on. It would be a great pathway in the club.
Now, as you get promoted through the leagues, so let's just say you're a championship club.
Yep.
Does that mean that a lot of those players that were in the academy, there may not be the opportunity then to progress when you're a championship club versus a League One club? Or are you looking when you're scouting and when you're training in the academy to make those players into, you know, high ceiling Premier League championship players, regardless of what league you're actually in at any given time?
Yeah, we're looking, when you give a pro contract to a 17-year-old or whatever, you're giving it with in mind that they can play higher than the level you're at. Because if they couldn't, you wouldn't give them the pro contract, because we're always looking to be higher. So you're absolutely right. They would probably get more chance in League One than the champ, but the players I'm talking about will be ready by the time we're in the champ to really be part of the squad. Yeah. And like one of them, Ronnie Edwards, this kid at centre half, he's like a Ben White, he's like a Ryan Bennett. If he played 10 games in the championship, I guarantee you Leeds, Liverpool, everyone will be throwing millions at us for a player like him because of the stature of centre half. He's 17, but he could play tomorrow on our team. I wouldn't lose sleep. When you can say, I wouldn't lose sleep over Flynn Clark, Ricky J. Jones, Harrison Burrows, Ronnie Edwards playing in our first team on Saturday against Portsmouth, I wouldn't lose sleep. That tells me the academy is doing the right thing. And we've got 2 guys in Matthew Edrington, Simon Davis, Kieran Scarf, who runs the academy, who are implementing Jason, my partner's big vision for what he wants to do at the academy. They're doing a good job, but it's baby steps. Too much pressure, too soon. You got to be careful. But, you know, a lot of it's attitude. Those players have to have the right attitude as well.
Yeah. So let's go around the rest of the leagues. Premier League, we got Spurs now joint top along with Liverpool. So, you know, you projected that for the last couple of months and they finally made it.
Jose, yeah, something told me that when you poke the bear, you know, and Jose Mourinho's been poked, you know, what happened at United, a lot of the media don't want to see him do well. I just had a funny feeling. I think it's going to come down to 4 teams this season. And it's going to be Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea. I was wrong about Lampard. He seems to have got it right. Maybe the goalkeeper and Thiago and whatever else, because I thought Lampard was a bit of a choker as a manager, you know, defensively, and the nearly man. But, you know, credit where credit's due, and I'll always apologise if I make a mistake. He seems to have got Chelsea right. Maybe less tinkering, and they've got a hell of a squad. I mean, they've got some players at Chelsea. So, yeah, I think there's going to be those 3-4 teams vying for it. It depends who keeps players fit. Liverpool's big problem at the moment they can't keep players fit. And Jurgen Klopp can keep moaning about TVs, but Joel Matip is made of glass and always seems to be injured. I love Jordan Henderson, but you never get a full season out of him. Oxlade-Chamberlain, you never get a full season out of him. Shaqiri, you never get a full season out of him. Our new signing from Bayern Munich in midfield, again, he seems to have a previous history of not playing 40, 50 games a season. None of those players I've mentioned and breaking down are anything to do with COVID or anything to do with playing 3 games a week. They all have historical issues with keeping fit through a season. So I would say with a lot of the injuries and a lot of these players, either why you're recruiting players who are made of glass, because you can see that in their record, or can your medical department not keep them fit?
Yeah.
And that has to be a consideration too.
Yeah.
Because I've had it at my club where you look at your medical department and go, you can't keep a squad fit. And that's nothing to do with the amount of games, because lots of them haven't played enough minutes. And the other thing is in Jurgen Klopp's defense, some players are just made of glass. Adam Lallana is a classic example. He's like the modern day Darren Anderton. He was always breaking down for Liverpool. He moves to Brighton. They've paid a lot of money and given him a 3-year deal. He comes on as a sub on Saturday and he's off after 15 minutes with an injury again. He's one of them players who seems to be made of glass. Another one would be Jack Wilshere. Jack Wilshere would get injured opening his front door. I mean, you saw his record. God bless them. I don't know what it is. Some players just have that issue.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
you know,
and then people are surprised. So we have it. I'm sure you have it. You know, players that you think, you know, that would be a good player if he could stay fit. But the reason he's playing in League Two or League One is because he can never stay fit. And you still go and sign him again.
No.
And then you're surprised when all of a sudden, you know, they come on and 15 minutes into the game back, they're back out again for another month.
One of my statistical things in my recruitment thing is that a player has to average 35 games a year over 3 years. Otherwise, I won't sign them. And if they fall below 35 as an average over 3 years, 9 times out of 10, I won't approve the recruitment. I've done it a couple of times because they were free, but I would never pay money for someone with that kind of record. So it's unfortunate. You feel for the players, but something about them is they're made of glass, and you know that's just the way it is.
Now, you mentioned about the medical team and sports science, you know, having a role in keeping players fit. What role do they really play? You know, is it? I'd love to hear like how they make the difference between perhaps keeping a squad fit and you know not doing, frankly.
It's a great question. So sometimes I'll joke with the manager and go, "Have you got permission off the sports scientist to allow us to train 4 days a week this week?" Because sports scientists have more influence on managers nowadays. They will set out the pre-season days, routines, the training, the drills, how many sessions you can do a day, what level the players can play minutes-wise. Like I've been upset like a pre-season where I'm like, oh, Reece Brown's just come back on loan. Why isn't he playing tomorrow? And the sports scientist is looking at me and go, no way, Chairman, he's not ready. He needs to build his minutes up. So sports scientists do have a lot of power. Sometimes I think it can be detrimental, but that's the new world. That's the profession.
Yeah.
They will say to the manager, the workload, the minutes, the days per week training. I'll moan like fuck when our players have 2 days off a week because I don't think footballers should have 2 days off a week. I don't. They come in and train for like 2 hours a day. You know what I mean? And they got like 2 days off. And it's like, no. We've got to manage their load. We've got to manage their minutes. We've got to manage, you know. I don't want to hear things like manage their fucking load. I mean, that sounds a little bit perverted. But the point is like that is the modern world. Sports scientists have a big, and we've got a great one. And we got a great physio. He used to be our assistant physio. We promoted him to the main physio. Our sports scientist, the same. We got 2 great guys in that department. They've done a brilliant job. When we've had players injured, they've got them back early. You know, they've got them back in good condition. It's probably one of the best departments we've had in about a decade at the club. So it's touch wood. It's been in really good shape.
Now, do you see many League One, League Two teams going all in to invest in sports science, or is it often one of those things that's kind of left for if we've got enough money at the end of the day?
When I first came on the scene, we had a physio called Oaksy, and I used to joke his magic sponge. Oaksy would run onto the field with that magic sponge, you know what I mean? And every player would be fine. And there was no such thing as scans and x-rays and fucking, you know, chiropractor and, you know, insoles and shoes and all. I mean, nowadays, our player, like Johnson Clark-Harris cracked his ankle on Tuesday night, Plymouth. There was a crack. We all thought, serious problem here. By 9 a.m, he'd already had a scan. We'd had the diagnosis. He'd seen a specialist. We were told basically no ligament damage, a little bit of bruising. He could be back for Saturday. He will be available for Wednesday. And it was all within the space of like 12 hours. So whereas a few years ago, that might have taken 6 days to find out all that information. So we've got private insurance. We've got a great, you know, medical department. We've invested really well in that side of the club. I think a lot of managers now, and I've been through a few managers, they all tend to want to bring a good sports science department with them. And if Darragh moved to a bigger club and got recruited, I'd probably try and keep our sports science department because the continuity, you know what I mean? But they will probably get recruited by bigger clubs, and that happens too. You know, we're a League One club. If Chelsea come along and recruit one, they're going to pay them 5 times more wages. That's just the evolution of life.
Yeah, we when I think back to the best sports science kind of setup that we had, which was under Phil Parkinson, you know, when he left, the whole team went with him.
They're all unemployed now, aren't they?
Yes. So that was kind of the next point was
Shit.
Parky got sacked at Sunderland, which, you know, I know Sunderland fans have got high expectations, but I was still, and I know, you know, you look on social and it seems like he was never really respected, or it's been on a bit of a hiding to nothing.
That could be a couple of things, because you look at it and go, if they win their game in hand, they go third. So I guess if Sunderland are in that period of talking to someone about buying the club, and I believe they are from what I've read in the paper, sometimes when you're buying a club, you could do as part of the deal, the manager has to be fired before I arrive.
Yeah, and you got to pay it off.
Right, it saves you looking like the hatchet person, more importantly than paying it off.
Okay.
If I'm buying the club and I don't like the manager, or I think he's like, I'll say to the owner, look, do me a favor, he has to go. So you need to get rid of him before I take over. Otherwise, I'm not taking over. So that could be one reason. Another reason could be pressure from the fans. I don't know, but there's no fans at the stadium. So are you following social media? Another reason could be there's shit to watch. I don't know. I don't watch Sunderland games. We played them. They were good. We were better, but they won the game. Look, I'm not going to judge anyone, because I've told you, we did it before. We sacked the manager when we were sixth. So I don't know. You know what I mean? I know Philip Parkinson has a certain DNA. He's a certain way of playing. It's not my cup of tea, but it works for a lot of teams.
Yeah, pragmatic, I think, is the nicest way of putting it.
Polite.
But, you know, we'd take him back in a heartbeat because of the success that he had with us. You know, we'll take pragmatic 1-0s at the moment.
Of course.
Now, fans have finally we got the green light to bring fans back into grounds.
Yippee.
But 2,000, I think you're in tier 2, so 2,000, so it's going to end up costing the club money, I'm sure, to do so. Where do you stand? Are you excited to get them back in? Is it some frustration that it's not a bigger scale?
Couple of reasons I'm excited to get the ball moving, because everything's progress, isn't it? It's like the government are throwing us crumbs. Yippee. Thanks very much. You know, and don't even get me started on their whole handling of fucking COVID. Bunch of morons around the world the way to do it. But it's some fans coming back. That's great news. So I'm happy for the fans, because the fans deserve football. Peterborough, I think, was tier 1, and under this ridiculous new ruling, most of the country's tier 2. My wife said to me the other day, I think it was Cornwall and the Isle of Scilly and the Isle of Wight were the only areas to hold of the UK in tier 1.
Yeah, I think maybe Brighton. A Premier League, I saw Brighton were a tier 1, and maybe even Liverpool, which surprised me somewhat.
Right. Okay. So the whole of, they knew what they were doing. Now they're just fucking with us. Now they're just throwing us crumbs to try and give us some comfort. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire. People are going to take to the streets, and I hope they do. You know what I mean? Because I'm glad to see people are rising about it because of what's happening and people's freedoms taken away. So they can't continue to do this. You've seen it today. Arcadia have gone into administration, 13,000 jobs. Loads more companies in January and February are going to go under. Cinemas, retail, restaurants, bars. So what they're doing is disgraceful. And what they're doing to us basically is, yeah, well, you know what? We're going to give you a little bit of hope. We're going to open up. We think tier 1, 4,000. We're going to get all our season ticket holders back in. Great. We don't have to do as many refunds, you know, blah, 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 shit. We're going to have to pay security. We're going to have to pay money that we're not paying at the moment. And then they come out with a tier system. It's like, fuck, it's 2,000 fans. So now we're going to have to go, well, you get in this week and you get in next week. And oh, by the way, if Peterborough is a good little city, you might drop to tier 3 and then we'll just smack you on the bum and punish you again and tuck you all back in bed and you can't have any fans. So you need to be a good little city and do your job and wash your hands and make sure you know, get rid of this virus, which isn't really going anywhere. And yeah, I'm just like fed up with the way they're doing it. So I've said it all along. The government owe us money. They owe every business that they've stopped allowing to do trade money. They've made this decision. They've taken away our liberties and our freedoms to act as enterprises, as businesses. Throwing 2,000 crumbs on the table is not enough. We need 4, 5, 6,000. And then we need also a bailout. And we need our EFL bailout. So that's where I stand on that. It's not good enough. Yeah. I'm happy for the fans that are going to get in. I read he was going to keep the tier system till April. I don't think he can. I think his own party will overthrow him. The Labour Party will get voted in next time, the way the Tories have handled this. So I don't think 70 Tories are going to vote for the extension till April. So I think he's going to have to change course or get permission of his missus to change course. And, you know, he's going to have to open the country up and stop with all the tier system nonsense. So I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with people like him. I know that idiot Biden will do the same in the States. Come January, he'll want to do a nationwide shutdown in America. Thankfully, we have the federal system or whatever it's called, federalism, where the governors run the states. So we'll be all right in Florida. We'll still be open, my friend.
I tell some people that outside of Florida, if they come to Florida, it's like, what pandemic? Now, that's not necessarily reflected in the numbers.
We're wearing our masks. We're wearing our masks, though. You might want to stay Florida, but everywhere I go in Florida, I don't see anyone without masks in Orlando. I mean, I know people want to dig on
Mostly,
us. Well, where do
yeah.
you not see masks?
I'd say sometimes, when you're going walking out and about in like the high street or
Outside.
yeah, and I guess it's outside. So when you're inside, I see everyone wearing the masks inside. Yeah.
I don't see why you have to wear masks on the street when you're like distance between people.
So long as you're distant.
Phil, for 8 months we've worn a mask.
Hmm.
So I'm like, how long more do you want me to wear a mask? Another 20 months, 30 months? How long until we should stop wearing masks? Do you think the virus will be gone forever?
That's the $64,000 question. I can see us wearing masks until late summer. I
Yeah.
reckon next year.
I mean, everywhere I go in Florida, if I go to a restaurant, I'm wearing a mask. If I go to a cinema, I'm wearing a mask. If I go
Yeah.
to the mall, I'm wearing a mask. If I sit with my dad, I'm always wearing a mask from distance. If we sit outside, we'll have distance. I don't see if you're in the street that you should have to wear a mask. You have to be respectful of like space between people. So Florida gets a raw deal, usually from liberals. But I don't see a lot of bad behavior in Florida as
Yeah.
regards to COVID. And yeah, of course, we're going to have cases and we're going to have deaths because that's just the law of this virus. But again, I'd love people to do their research and look at the average age of people, God bless them, who are passing away from it, while everyone else, in that threshold who will be all right from it are basically sat at home and not allowed out. It's just that this has gone on too long, buddy. I don't know how much longer. I mean, what is it? Oh, we'll open for Christmas, have 2 weeks of Christmas, and then we'll put you back down under in January. I mean, haven't we got vaccines now? What are we doing?
I think the Moderna applied to the
Mm.
FDA today for the usage of theirs. So next week or two, I think they're coming. I saw something today that had I think it was Goldman Sachs put together a chart of how much of the population they expect to be vaccinated by a certain point, and they were looking about 50% by I think May, June period of time.
Moderna and Pfizer put it in 6 days ago to the FDA.
Mhm.
So they were meeting again today to talk about the
Okay.
rollout. I believe the rollout on the 11th of December, you can see I know my data. The rollout on the 11th of December will be 20 to 40 million doses that will go to frontline workers and will go to people in nursing homes. So forget about the rest of the population. Take care of the nursing homes and the people over 60 and watch all the mortality drop, and then everyone will stop talking about it. And yes,
Mhm.
we should all take I will go take the vaccine tomorrow. So, it needs to be here. All these countries now, that should be the talk. The plan should be stop talking about infections. It should be how are we getting the vaccine to people and quickly.
Yeah, I would take it tomorrow as well. All this
Me too.
being afraid of taking it,
Can I tell you what they did in Dubai? Can I tell you what they did in Dubai? And you
Sure.
don't even notice. The king out here, I want to say here in Dubai or whatever else, took the vaccine at the start of November. He put it on video and he took it. Guess where he got it from, Philip? Come on, take a guess. Take a guess where he got the vaccine from.
Which company?
Which country?
Which country?
Yeah.
States?
China.
China. Interesting.
He took the vaccine no one talks about on the internet that's been out probably for a long time, our friends in China. He took the vaccine from China. Guess what else he did then? He gave all the frontline workers in hospitals and around Dubai, they've all been vaccinated already.
Mm-hmm.
So what the fuck are superpowers like? Well, we know why America didn't have it out earlier. It was the election, because otherwise everyone would have been vaccinated in the front line. England, I don't know what they're doing with the Oxford one. I see there's more shit on that and taking time and whatever else. So I don't know what the fuck they're waiting for. But this guy in Dubai has shown his people he took it. He's all the frontline workers done, and now he's rolling it out to the rest. So how can we, as superpowers, not have this sorted out? It's mad.
So you talked in there, and we feel like a broken record asking this, and you probably feel like a broken record answering it.
Sure.
But we're now another couple of further weeks past. Where's the bailout?
Yeah, I'm fed up now, because now I'm going to go to my players. I'm going to have to go to my staff, and we're going to have to ask them to take a haircut. And if Alan Swan's listening to this, don't play out that headline until after the next 2 league games, so I don't be blamed for it. But no, I mean, the reality is, I joke and whatever else, but
Yeah.
The reality is everyone's going to have to go to their staff, going to have to go to, employees, ask for help. Either that or you're going to have to let them go, and we don't want to let go of employees. So everyone needs to get help now. The bailout, we were told any day. It's still not happening. There's still no date. By the time the podcast is out, maybe some miracle we'll wake up tomorrow and it's out, it's done. It's still not enough. It's still not going to help or scratch the surface. The government needs to do more. The problem with having 2,000 fans in is you're appeasing half your season tickets. You still have to deal with the other half. You still have to do refunds, which we're now undergoing. You still have to give options to your fans. We now have to bring security back in. We now have to pay for a lot more match day expenses. There's no income on match day at all. I believe they're stopping drink as well and food. So there's all sorts of issues around that. And I couldn't say, some clubs are going to not do it probably, but I couldn't do that to my fans. They've been
Right.
starved of football since February. Mind you, after Saturday, I'm not sure they'd want to go and watch. But the point is, they've been starved for so long of football. You know, the right thing to do, me and my partners want to do, is give them football. So I think our first game with fans is going to be the Papa John Trophy game on Tuesday week. And that's my first game back when I'm back in the UK from Dubai. Because there's an air bridge from here, which is great. There's no quarantine. Awesome. So I'll go to the game, and there will be fans at the game. That'd be great. And also,
it'll be the highest attended EFL Trophy game for years.
I actually laughed the other day and said, if you're allowed 4,000 in, it will be our first 4,000 crowd in an early round like Papa John Trophy or EFL Trophy game. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? So just to see some friendly faces, to see some people smiling, to see the players interact when they celebrate a goal or whatever else. So, yeah, I mean, look, like I said, progress is progress, and we'll take the crumb and we'll try and build the crumb into a meal. What we have to do is keep putting pressure back on the authorities all the time over the freedoms they're taking away from us.
Yeah, because my worry of this is that the government takes a perspective, well, now that we're letting fans back in the grounds, the problem's not, it's not a big problem anymore. They've got the fans back. They're going to start to get the money back. They got through the dark times. You know, we don't really need to do so much.
Load of bollocks. Yeah, I mean, while they're bailing out every other industry, no, that's a load of bollocks. They keep like fogging us off and saying, well, the Premier League has spent £1 billion. And, you know, well, fuck you. We're not the Premier League. Stop pigeonholing us and saying the Premier League, the Premier League, the Premier League. And yes, we'll do a deal with the Premier League, but that's none of the government's business. The government need to do more. You know, the Premier League aren't the ones stopping us selling match tickets to fans. The Premier League aren't the ones stopping us opening our club shop at the moment for our only income. Yeah, that's the government, the UK government. Boris Johnson and his friends are stopping us doing that. Yeah, the Tory party. That's not the Premier League. So you can keep blaming the Premier League. No, it's on you. Yeah, get your checkbook out. You're bailing everyone else out. Give us our loan.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to go into a break. We've got a bunch of questions to come back to. So we will be back with everybody in a few moments. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Hard Truth podcast. We got a bunch of listener questions. I have one of my own as well that I'm going to pitch to Darragh as well before the question session is out. But the first question, we're actually going to go, and I can't actually remember who this has come from, but I remember seeing it on social media, and I thought it was just an interesting question. And the question that came in was, do you have any favorite teams outside of the UK? So, you know, favorite Spanish team, favorite Italian team, anyone that you follow from afar?
You've been a Real Madrid fan since I lived in Spain. Italy, always AC Milan. Holland, always been Ajax. Other countries, Denmark is my island. Is it the Brentford owner owns it? So always keep an eye on their results. In America, it would be actually, tell a lie, MLS. I was put off by that because what happened with buying Orlando. Yeah. What other countries would there be? Portugal would have been Porto. Anyone else in there? France would have been Marseille. You know, back in the day, obviously Glory Hunter, some of the big clubs, you know, and obviously some of them have fallen from grace. And in Ireland would have been Shamrock Rovers.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I was always at Roma in Italy.
There you go.
I think because of the colours and because of Francesco Totti. So whenever I was playing my Championship Manager Serie A game, it would be straight to Roma.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think Real as well for Spain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question from Rich. So it was alleged that Sean Dyche had a clause in his contract whereby he gets 5% of any transfer fees from sales for Burnley's young players, and he came out and denied that story. So I want to make that clear. Sure. The question really is that was the context for it. Is that kind of clause normal in a manager's contract where they get a percentage of sales of players?
Lots of managers have asked me for that, and I've always said no. I won't give a manager a percentage of player sales. It's not what we do. I pay a director of football already, percentage of player sales. Not a massive amount. And that's quite normal. Technical director, football director will get a percentage of sales. We have to do it on profit. You know, because you can't just be on one player. It has to be on losses and you know, profit and loss. I wouldn't want a manager earning income on players he sells.
Do you see that just a conflict, or it's not even his money to?
I don't like it. I don't like it. He's got enough to do. He doesn't need that as an incentive. I get it. Yeah. He brings in, he improves the player. You want to reward him for that. Well, you know what? Write him a check as a bonus. But you know, it's just muddy waters. I don't like it.
So a question from Jamie. How often do you get tire kickers coming in claiming that they want to buy the club? Are you always entertaining folks who say they want to by a League One football team?
I don't entertain any of them. It's like LinkedIn's full of them. You get idiots on there all the time. You
Hmm.
get emails to the club. I had a Brazilian consortium years ago. To be fair, when I decided I was going to do business on the club, I used a broker and I had two very serious parties. One was a cryptocurrency company that agreed a deal
Hmm.
and then couldn't come up with the funds. They had funding issues at the last moment. And then obviously I met my Canadian partners, and that was a very, very quick process. But I'll be honest, the broker made the intro, and me being the closer and the deal maker I took over the whole deal. I mean, with all due respect to the guys who made the intro, they didn't deserve the commission. And I know one of them in America will be listening to this laughing, down at Tampa. But all they did was make an intro. I then spent the next 7 months courting the deal to the finish line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I have a lot of thanks and respect to the people who made the intro, because that was their job. And truth be known, I wanted to take over the process, because you get the third party involved and it becomes complicated. And
Yeah.
when there's a deal to be done, I like to get my teeth into it myself and just a bit like a football deal. You get
Yeah.
on with it and make it happen.
Yeah. And that's your, you're a deal maker. That's your area of expertise, and I'm sure interest as
100%.
well.
Listen, I've always said it, and I'll keep blowing my own trumpet. I am the best deal maker outside the Premier League when it comes to football deals, and the last 10, 11 years, statistically, from a League One football club proves that.
So I got a question from Shane. Shane's a Rochdale fan.
Cool.
And Shane says, you always get a good deal, or it seems to from the outside, when it comes to selling players, which I don't think my club Rochdale does. And he cites Luke Matheson, rumored to have been sold for $1 million plus add-ons when he went over to Wolves. Would you have accepted that for a player like Luke?
Yeah, I've seen him. He was a good player. I'm not sure he was worth more at the time, and the position he played in and everything else. And I know he scored against Man United in the cup, and he was a 16-year-old scoring. We've had multiple teenagers the last 2 years do that. I can't speak for Rochdale or the value they get for players. We sold a young player, Leonardo da Silva Lopez. I thought he'd be worth millions at one point. He didn't get to that level. In the end, we sold him. We got like north of $1 million plus a sell on. He then got dumped out of Wigan too quickly, because I think Hull sold him for a lot more money. So the sell on would have meant we would have made $2 million. Do you know what I mean? If that hadn't happened, you can never regret any deals. You have to do deals to the best of your ability. Everyone knows I said Ivan Toney would play in the Premier League in the summer, and Premier League clubs should have broken their balls to sign him. And now look at him in the Championship. He's probably already a £25 million striker. That's the killer about not being in the Championship. If I'm in the Champ, the deals I could make would be so much bigger.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be 6, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s. They would be 18, 19, 20, 21 million. And that's why I want to get back there, because the deals I can make in there would change the life of Peterborough for decades. So, yeah, look, don't be resentful of the deals Rochdale do. It's a terrifically run football club. They do their best. They produce some good young players. They're in League One, the same league as us. Their wage bill is probably one of the lowest. Credit to them, credit to their fan base and to their ownership.
Yeah, and for players like that, I'm sure that a large part of the value is it's internal rather than external. So it's not necessarily,
Yes.
what I mean by that is not what is that player worth to another football club. It's what is that money worth to you that you can sell him for.
Of course. And it becomes good. Like you had Ollie McBurney at Bradford.
Yeah.
It becomes good. You can make another 2.5 million. And that 2.5 million McBurney brought in from Bradford was probably like
it saved us.
It was a godsend. Yeah, it's a lifeline. So, there's those stories. It's like Dele Alli a few years ago was going to be £100 million sale. MK Dons would have made 15, 20 million in a sell on. That's where a lower league club, if you can protect yourself in the back end with a juicy sell on, and we've got a good one on Ivan Toney, you can make millions more. Down the line. Exeter, another great run club. They probably made 4 million this year from Watkins getting sold. And again, what that does for their academy, their wage bill, what they're trying to do as a club. Crew did it for years. So there's a lot of good stories of really well-run football clubs that aren't told enough. There are some out there. Yeah. Sometimes we get tired with that brush that there's so much debt, there's so many badly run football clubs. But actually, there's a lot of really well-run football clubs as well.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here with a follow-up question that I've got.
Yeah.
Who is the next youngster that's going to go to the Premier League from League One or League Two that's going to command the $1 million plus fee?
I can't tell you, because I'd want to buy them. And I'd want to buy them before Brentford or anyone else come in and snap them up. But for my football club, I would say the next two players from our team that will play in the Premier League, they could play there tomorrow. And some of the fans might laugh, some people might laugh. Dembele could definitely play in the Premier League. He is a Zaha. In fact, I said before, he's like a Crystal Palace player.
Yeah.
But a lot of clubs would be snobbery. They would never look at like an Ivan Toney. You know what I mean? Dembele all day long. And funny enough, there's a Premier League club right now who are desperate for him. And, we said, look, talk to us in January this summer.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we've said that is because if bailouts don't happen, we look at January. It's not that we need to sell, but sometimes you do right for the club. If not, we'll do it in the summer. We want to get promoted, So he's the next one. And the next one after him would be Jack Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Taylor in central midfield, who we spent nearly $1 million on from non-league. He's ex-Chelsea. He's 22. He'll play in the Premier League. He was called up to the Irish squad last week. He will definitely play in the Premier League. So we've got 2 right there. And then under that, we've got a batch of teenagers that all goes well in their career. They will play at the top. So there are a few in League One and League Two. There's 2 players in League Two that I think will play in the Premier League. One's 19 and one's 18. And God willing, all goes to plan. I'd like to buy those 2 players. Probably next summer. We won't be able to afford to do it in January, but they're on my gem list to buy and develop, and they will play at the top.
So what's your pitch then if an Arsenal or a West Ham or Man City or whatever are sniffing after one of those players, or Palace or whoever it is?
Sure.
And Peterborough, how are you going to convince them that Peterborough's the club for them?
It's easy to convince the selling club, because I would say to the selling club, if you sell a player directly to a Man City, you're never going to make any more money. You get your million, you get your $1.5 million for that player in League Two.
Yeah.
But forget the 20% sellout. If you sell him to Peterborough for $1 million over 20 years, and we then sell him for 10 million, you're now going to make 3 million. So why do you want to sell him direct to the Premier League? Yeah. You want him to make that step in the train station beforehand. That's where you're going to get weighed in. Different if, say, a Burnley bought the player. Burnley might then sell a player onto a Man City. So you've got to be careful as a League Two club. Convince the player is actually not that bad either, as long as the player's not a greedy little prick. Because what you would say to the player is, if Crystal Palace, per se, go and buy, or Man City go and buy a player from League Two, the first thing you're going to do is they're going to become an under-21 player. And they're going to play under-21 football. And the last thing a player wants to do, who's been playing 50 games in League Two, is to go and spend 2 years playing under-21 football, get thrown out on loan again to League Two or League One, and be like a fucking nomad. So what I would say to that player is, look, forget the money. Forget the highlights of the Premier League right now. Come to us for 2 years. Do the business for 2 years with us in League One, the champ, and then go to a club straight from us and play. Like, you will play. Do you know what I mean? So you only have to look at Newcastle. Newcastle had Adam Armstrong and they had Ivan Toney as young strikers. And they sold them for a combined £2 million. And both of those players are the leading goal scorers in the Championship, who are probably worth a combined 50 million now. And yeah, Newcastle, probably bought them too young, got them out on loan, and then eventually got bored with them because they couldn't make use of them and sold them.
Yeah. They thought there's no path for them to the first team. Or...
Correct. So it's one of them things, So I always fancy our chances if we're going in for a player. Where we have a problem is if we go up for a player and a champ club wants them. That becomes a problem because the champ club can say, well, we'll give you football. The Premier League can't always go, we're going to give you football.
And you've got a track record now. And I imagine that, as the players that you have in mind that you want to bring to the club like that, the mental state is a big part of that. So, they're going to having that mindset is all part of the equation for you.
9 times out of 10, when we make the call, the agent and the player are delighted it's Peterborough because of what we've done with our previous players. I'm not going to lie to you, most of them are like, oh, what a brilliant move for the player. That 1 time out of 10, you get an agent who's just a fucking asshole and mess up the deal. We did a deal in the summer to sign a player from Exeter, and the deal was done. And the agent a new agent came on the scene, and I knew the agent. I couldn't stand the guy. And he basically killed the deal. We'd agreed the fee, we agreed the wages with the player. The lad was a great lad. He was coming in. Then the agent came on the scene, and then all of a sudden the attitude changed. And I pulled the plug, because then the agent wanted him to go and speak to 3 other clubs. He wanted him to see if the 2 championship clubs were going to come in. And I'm like, no. We know what we can do for the player. We've agreed a deal. We're not some looking show where you can then come see us and then go flirt and have dates with everyone else. We ain't waiting 2 weeks till the window closes, till you don't get another option and then come back to us. So we pull the plug. And look, the player now, he's still in League Two. He might go higher. It's happened before. An agent involved, the player allows it to happen. I call the player and the agent fucking stupid. That's just football for you.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine that, if you end up being in a position where you're having conversations about Dembele, then you don't have to point very far to Ivan Toney to talk to some of those clubs around what the true value of that player is.
Yeah, I made a joke when Brentford bought Ivan. I put in a thing that wasn't about Dembele. I put in a thing to message when I'd say congratulations to Rasmus and we did the deal together. I said, and by the way, when you come back for player X, and I put in a certain player, you'll be paying a lot more money than you paid for Ivan for him. And I said, you will be back, trust me. So I know Rasmus and Matthew from Brentford will be going, MacAnthony was right about Ivan Toney, and we probably underpaid for him. So they probably feel I got the best deal there. But at the time, they felt they were breaking their record. They were thinking, fuck me, are we
Yeah,
overpaying?
it's a risk. They only saw the downs. Well, there was
There
a
was
lot of
no risk,
downside for
but
them.
they saw there was risk. For me, there was no risk. That was the biggest non-risk transfer in the recent history for a Premier League club. Can I tell you a story? And true story this is.
Mm-hmm.
David Pleat from Spurs wanted Daniel Levy to sign Ivan Toney.
Right.
David Pleat's a friend of mine in Barry Fry's. He honestly wanted Daniel Levy to sign Ivan Toney because obviously they were looking at Harry Kane had injuries. They were looking at the lack of strikers. So they wanted basically like backup. And they probably saw David Pleat saw Ivan Toney as a no-brainer. He thought the cost was low. His wages would be low. He would be an easy addition to the Tottenham squad. He thought he was a good age. And if it didn't come off at Tottenham, they would probably sell him for double the money to a championship team.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if it hadn't been for the pandemic, he probably would have convinced Daniel Levy to buy him. And that's a true story. And David Pleat might deny that, but I've spoken with Baz and I've been on the phone where David's left messages on the phone with Baz about, is he gone yet? Is he still available? I'm still getting Daniel to have all the chief scouts pull up his footage. That is a true story.
I'm sure that we'll see, Spurs may be on their way to win the league, but,
Great club.
there was still some, the ones that got away.
Absolutely. Listen, at the end of the day, Spurs don't care about Ivan Toney. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They've got Bale. They've got whatever else. That's always the problem. You got a massive club like that. For them to go and sign a League One player, their fan base probably would have laughed. And when you own a club like that, you got to be careful. So, but it just shows you David Pleat was the one who got Dele Alli there. And he's very much a fan of the Football League. He wanted Ricky J. Jones to go to Spurs, our young starlets. So, you get, a person like David Pleat has so much respect in the game. Daniel Levy listens to him because he's been around and he goes out and he watches all the young players and he knows all the best. He knows all our best young players. He's been to our youth games. And I have so much respect for people like Barry Fry and David Pleat in the 70s and 80s who are still out there doing the job these young managers and young technical directors don't do. They don't go and watch games like these guys do.
Yeah, they were brought up differently, I guess, and maybe it's the love of the game.
Different work ethic.
So the last question I have from listeners this week is from Josh. And Josh says he's a young aspiring coach, just turned 18 and coaches at a local team in Peterborough. Can you offer any advice to Josh to try and get into the professional game as a coach? Where do you even start?
Oh, it's tough, go get your badges. Your work ethic's really important. You're probably going to have 2 jobs a day as well as coaching, but you're not going to earn any money from coaching for a while. Try and get into a Football League club in a free volunteer capacity, just to start with, just to get in the door. We've had physios come in as interns and people used to slate me because we didn't pay our interns. And I had some young girl, from, I think it was Extinction Rebellion or whatever, gone after me on Twitter as some middle-aged old man who was taking advantage of young people. And one of our ex-interns popped up on Twitter and went, well, actually, I'm the head sports scientist at Bath Rugby Club and I now earn 6 figures a year. And I used to massage the players' legs for like £10 or whatever a week, lunch money. But it was to get that qualification on your record, to get something on your CV. And we help a lot of people out like that. We've got coaches coming in. We help them from all countries and whatever else. And, get in, whatever job is offered, take the job. I don't care if you're scrubbing toilets and coaching. At the end of the day, when I started in real estate, my job when I was 19 working in a real estate company was to clean the windows that the pictures went in and be the dog's body runner and gopher. And all I did while I was there for a year, was soak up knowledge and information and learn. And if you can get that, that's invaluable. I used to work at nighttime in a club and then go to work during the day for free. And I always say this to people who have a go at me about interning. I've done all this myself. I've worked for free. I've done night jobs. I've done whatever it takes. So if you're a young coach, and I respect it and love that, study the game, go to as many matches as you can, watch as many international games as you can, learn about all aspects of it, do your badges, read books, educate yourself, have a personality, go to clubs, send in CVs, tell them you'll work for a month. You want to come in and learn and you're happy to go away pre-season and you're going to lift bags and you're going to do whatever you need to do. That's the attitude needed to get to the top. Jose Mourinho was a fucking translator. He was Bobby Robson's gopher.
Yeah.
more than a translator. We probably made him more coffees than Starbucks did, and now he earns 20 million a year.
Yeah. Imagine how much knowledge he soaked up while he was doing that.
Correct. So you will get your chance.
All right. Great advice for Josh. So the last question, and this is the question that I was going to pose to you, which is, my beloved Bradford, we're on some pretty tough times at the moment. We're out of the cup as well. We could be in the bottom two of League Two by this time next week, which I'm hanging my hat on the fact that there's worse teams in League Two than Bradford. But there's a lot of teams have not deserved to get relegated, but based on the quality of their players, they've still got relegated.
Sure.
We have a new 29-year-old CEO who actually just gave a year contract extension to our manager last week, which was I was for it, but I can understand why people wouldn't be for it. You came into Peterborough as a 29-year-old, same age as our new CEO. What advice would you give to somebody in that situation?
He's on a hiding to nothing. I respect he's taken the job. I believe he's the press officer. And he's risen through the ranks.
Communications and commercial director.
Fair enough. So he's risen through the ranks. It's a hiding to nothing because the fan base is so unhappy. Because there's probably a discourse between ownership and fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Because the squad's not one of the best you've had in years. The expectations are low. It's really, really difficult. For me, Bradford needs a reset. It needs a new owner. It needs probably new management. It needs new players. And I'm having to go Stuart McCall. I'm looking from the outside. It needs a reset. Sometimes football clubs need, this is a sleeping giant. If I was buying a football club tomorrow and I was, back in, or I was 29 again, I would have walked to Bradford to buy that football club in League Two. And I know Peterborough fans, they go, Jesus, but with all due respect, that fan base, the size of it, the history, it's a giant, the regional, the location. There's so much there on the bone. There's so much meat on the bone at that football club. So I don't know if the owner wants to sell. He needs to get the price out there because someone could buy that club. If you got Hollywood royalty buying non-league football clubs, fuck me. For a few million more, they could buy a club like Bradford. I mean, this is a club that is steeped in history and iconic status. I mean, Christ almighty, what I'd do with a football club like Bradford. I would give up football if I didn't have them top 10 of the championship inside of 4 years. Do you know what I mean? Because of the way I recruit, crikey almighty, you would have players, never mind what we do for players, they would fall over themselves to sign for a Bradford that's on the up, because it's a big club. And probably what they need is if they don't get a wealthy owner or a new owner, they need to do maybe what Portsmouth did before the Eisners came in, where maybe the fan base can get involved and raise some money and join up with some wealthy people, like an AFC Wimbledon, like Portsmouth type thing, and have a bit of fan and private owners involved. And it needs the fans to look after for a couple of years just to get it on its feet, get it back to League One, and then sell it to a big whale. So, that's maybe I'm doing a disservice to the current owner. Maybe he's more ambitious than I think. I don't know enough about it. I wish the 29-year-old all the success in the world. He's on a hiding to nothing. It's a lonely place. It's tough. He's probably he's going to be firefighting from day one. What a baptism of fire. But you know what? He was brave enough to say yes. So now he's got to be brave enough to do the job and front it.
Yeah. And, I'm a really big believer that age means nothing. It's about experience. It's about, ambition, vision, ability, of course, to pull people together. That's one of the things that really irks me is when people look at somebody's age and say, because of that age, they don't have the ability.
Age is a number, my friend. And I fought with this all my life when I was younger and I was building my business and I was doing deals that most 50-year-old men weren't doing when I was 25. And I'd walk into rooms and I have a presence so I could get away with it and people knew I was the jefe and the boss. But, at the start, it took me a while to get that respect and get that swagger. And then when I bought a football club at 29, I had to go in there with big balls to show people I'm not some young rich kid, you know what I mean? Or like a daddy's boy who's buying a club, or got my inheritance or whatever else. This is me. This is who I am. I'm an individual. So it's tough, and I wish him well. And look, if he wants to have a chat with me, I'm open. For anyone who works at football clubs, if they want to ring me anytime, I've been in the game 15 years, I'll give them half an hour of my time, you know what I mean, on the phone and chat to help.
Well, we're all keeping our fingers crossed that, we're able to start pulling in the right direction. I think what you said about fans is really important because there's been such a disconnect between clubs and ownership. And, traditionally for a club like us, we've always been really, really close. A lot of it based on our history and, what happened with the fire and all those things.
Great fan base. And
and the not being in the ground is making it worse because, you know, people getting disconnected, whereas before they would still go and because they want to see their mates, and it's still about going on a Saturday.
I'll be back.
Yeah, they will be back if we start turning around.
Let me tell you right now, I've been to Bradford when they were in shitty moments, and there were 17,000 people there on a Saturday. Trust me, I know you're saying when we turn it around, but I've seen Bradford like not fill the place, but have crowds that I dreamed of when they were like 10th or 12th in the league. So I've got no concerns about the fan base of Bradford. And you know what they say about football? Owners come and go. It's the same at Peterborough. Owners come and go. Fans are forever. And, you're always going to have your loyal fan base. I know Bradford have 15, 17,000 fans that buy season tickets every year. I know at Posh, we've got 4,000 or 5,000 hardcore every year. They will turn out. They will be there. If I go in an alleyway, and I use this analogy a lot, I say it about my staff and people with me. If I go in an alleyway and there's 20 big guys, let's call them 20 Mike Tysons waiting for me in the alleyway. I love to look over my shoulder and see who the people that matter are still there with me and the ones who fucking scarpered. And I'll tell you right now, there are certain fan bases. We've got a hardcore fan base who'd be there, and Bradford have a fan base that will be there. They might snipe and moan and fucking whatever else, but they'll be there. And you're one of them. They'll be there.
Well, hopefully by this time next week, we've won our 2 games and, we're on our way up and the doom and gloom has lifted a little bit. We'll see.
That's what you need. Wins change everything. And that's what I said. We had a horror show at the weekend, but by Saturday night, if we do the business this week and our players put the work in, we're top of the league, you'd like to think. So, that's how things can turn around. So we can't go and kick the football. Our players have to go out and do it for us. So, that's what they're paid to do. So Bradford have got those players. We've got those players. Go and do your jobs and do them well. Do them to the best of your ability.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll wrap it up for today.
Brilliant.
Thank you again for joining me. It's been another great conversation. We're going to be back. I think we're back next week. What's your travel like? Yours?
I travel to the UK on Sunday, so I'm good to go Monday and do our recording. So you want to do Monday or Tuesday, whichever day suits you. I'm good to go. So
all right.
Yeah, my kids are all doing virtual schooling here in Dubai. I think it's in America time. It's like 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning. So they're like doing their school from 5 in the afternoon to like 10:30 at night here. So I've got them all set up upstairs. They got desks in each of the rooms. You know what I mean? So they weren't happy when I told them week 2 of the holiday was school again. But listen, to the people listening, because I know you're all at home, thank you for the support. Hopefully you're all out of lockdown next week, and the will of the people will show, and all of this shit will be behind us. And again, special mention to the special Sir Barry Fry on recovering from coronavirus. So again, showing those of you who are out there maybe worried and hiding behind the couch, that for a 73-year-old man who's had 2 heart attacks, he's fought it off and he's come through. And understanding what we're dealing with and the science and everything else shows you there's a way forward.
All right. Well, for everybody who's listening, please continue to send those questions in. You can do that just by going to our contact form, which is hardtruthfootball.com/contact. You can fill that in on the website or email contact@hardtruthfootball.com. Till next week, have a wonderful few days, and we'll speak to everybody again soon.
Take care, everyone.